Up next on Inside the SCCA, the lowest barrier to entry. Welcome to episode probably 219, maybe 220 of Inside the SCCA. I'm Brian Bielanski. Today, our episode is going to be fun. It's going to talk about one of the programs in the club that is easily the lowest barrier of entry. Got a car? Safe to drive? You're in. It's called Road Rally. Our guest on episode, whatever one this one is, Greg Lester. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Greg's from Ohio. He is the Northeast Ohio Rally Chair, Northeast Ohio region, not for maybe the whole quarter of the state, because there might be other rally organizations up there, but Northeast Ohio region Rally Chair. Greg, we start every show the exact same way. You're a first-time guest, so you get the first-time guest question. Are you shaking in your boots?
Go ahead.
How did you get mixed up in this crazy sport that we love?
I was an engineering student in New York State many, many moons ago. A housemate of mine literally ran across a flyer for a rally at a local auto parts store that Central New York region was putting on. And he brought it home and said, this sounds like fun. Let's go. And the rest is history.
There you go. There you go. What was the school? Let's give the school some props.
Syracuse University.
Okay, Syracuse University, cool. When you found out about, did you know what rally was at that time, or were you the just a newbie looking at how to get involved?
I had a vague idea, but they were just basically a newbie just wanting to get involved.
How long ago was this?
This would have been 1982, 3.
I asked that question because you and I are probably not too far away from each other in age. When I started in this sport was 86. I'm a little bit younger than you, but not by much. There was no YouTube University. There was no Google or Yahoo. How did you learn how to do this when you didn't have all the stuff that we have today? Today we have this plethora of information and ways to learn. How'd you learn?
It's sort of quite a bit of in-person tutoring. You develop sort of when you get really interested in something, you sort of seek out mentors, a couple of people in particular, and lots of trial and error, some of which has carried through and some of which was a real learning experience.
Right.
But I think that's probably true of a lot of different activities.
Right. That first event, can you recall back to that experience and what the first event was like? And obviously you had enough fun that you came back and did it again. But tell us about that first event.
I don't have a lot of recollection of it. I know it was a fairly straightforward event that we got out into the countryside of central New York and enjoyed ourselves. That's
yeah. How quickly were you just flat out hooked?
I did some other things well, I suppose I joined the club not long after.
Right.
Did some other things. I ended up working corners, flagging at Watkins Glen for a couple of years before moving home to Ohio. I continued to do that when I came back to Ohio and did more rallying when I got back to Ohio. A couple of years later, got back to Ohio. There was between the local SCCA regions and a couple of local independent clubs, which sadly no longer exist, there was quite a bit of rally activity in Northeast Ohio at the time.
Sure.
So got quite busy then.
Yeah. Your experience is what I don't think we get as much of today, and maybe you and I are a little unique in general, and maybe it hasn't been different over the years. But I get the sense that back in the before times, before the internet, club members often participated in more than one discipline. You know, you said you did some flagging and some road rally. I started in road racing and then did some autocross and dabbled very, very little in road rally. But I was involved in three different things.
Yeah, I did a little bit of autocrossing too, early on. I think you're absolutely right. That I just last year was my 40th anniversary, in the club. And I have seen what I perceive as a fall off in crossover activity.
Right.
I don't know what the statistics are, but that's my perception.
Yeah. Do you have any idea? Thoughts on why that is? Because I think that it would be awesome if my road racing brethren would go and do a road rally on occasion, or autocrossing to road race. Any thoughts on why that is? Is it time? People don't have as much time these days.
They have more time today. I don't buy the no time. I think we have more leisure time today than any time in history. We have lots of things to fill it.
That's true. Okay. Yeah. So maybe the time is not that we don't have the leisure time. It's that we have maybe other interests that aren't just motorsport stuff. I got it. That makes sense. That's one of the things I'm going to try to work on, is to get people to cross over, because I did a road rally, especially if you have kids, by the way, and you want to get them interested in this sport. My kid's 19 now. A couple years back, we did our first road rally together, and they had a blast. It was awesome, and I think we came in first in novice, and that was cool, and all of that. Is it just we have to invite the people?
I think that's part of it. Again, I don't I don't have a good feel for why people choose. Obviously, people have their preferences,
Right?
And getting back to the crossover activity, we used to have again, before automated timing and scoring at the racetrack, we used to have sort of a deal between the rallyists and the road racers that in the summer the rallyists would come out and work timing and scoring at Nelson Ledges in Mid Ohio. In the winter, the road racers would come out and rally. So.
Nice. That's a good idea, because in Ohio in the winter there's not much road racing that you can do. There is no road racing you can do. Not much motorsports at all, except for doing a rally.
Yeah.
Is there any ice racing in Northeast Ohio?
Not much.
Okay.
No, there have been. We're just on the cusp of having the lakes not frozen enough. We've got to go a little bit farther north to get. When I lived in New York, there was some ice racing a little bit farther north.
Yeah.
And in Michigan, there's some ice racing too.
I grew up in Wisconsin, so I got to do a little ice racing. The further north in Wisconsin you got, the more you had the opportunities to do it. So. From that first rally to today, 40 years doing it, tell us a little about your journey. What have you participated in the national championships? How did you get to where we are today?
Well, I again got very, very active locally. Started there at the time. There was a series of brisk Saturday night rallies that called the Ohio Rally Championship.
Okay.
Which an outgrowth of that was sort of a predecessor to the SCCA Pro Rally Stage Rally Series, and I ran several of those that toward the end of the era there, and eventually ran some long distance rallies, One Lap of America,
right,
and the Alcan Rally from Seattle to Anchorage to up above the Arctic Circle and back in the winter. Won that.
That sounds like awesome.
Also ran the Rally of the Lost Patrol, which was another Canadian marathon winter rally that ran from Canal, BC, up above the Arctic Circle and back in winter. Also. So
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
I've won several. There's a divisional Great Lakes Divisional Rally Series. Well, before Central Division was split into Central and Great Lakes
Right.
divisions, but it was a Central Division series. Now it's a Great Lakes series, which involves mostly rallies in Ohio and Michigan.
Okay.
Detroit region and the Ohio region are the biggest players in that. But we have had events in Indianapolis and Cincinnati, excuse me, Cincinnati, and a couple of other places too.
Right. Press on regardless. Is that part of the series?
It is.
Cool. That's one I've always wanted to do. It's on my
Yeah.
bucket list. So
Yeah, I won that in 1998 too.
yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I would venture to guess that most people, when they think rally, they think like World Rally Championship and cars blasting through the forest and spinning out and running into trees and that kind of stuff. What we're talking about here is very different than that. Tell the people who don't know what rally means in the SCCA.
Well, in the SCCA, what most of what we do is called time, speed, distance rallying, or TSD rallying,
Right.
where you are given the organizers set up a route, a predefined route. The competitors follow that route, and at numerous points along that route, their arrival times are taken, and they're based on assigned average speeds and other timing indicators. There's a theoretical perfect arrival time at each one of these checkpoints, and you're scored according to how close to that your target arrival time you can maintain. You're given penalty points equally for arriving early, before, or after your theoretical perfect arrival time.
Right. What is and the one thing I find that's really cool is there are novice classes at most events, right? That's what
There are. Yeah.
what Alex and I did when we did our first one, and really the only difference between the novice and the non-novices is that you're really only competing against yourself, right?
Basically, yeah.
And not yourself, but against other novices.
Other novices. Generally, there are 3 or 4 equipment-based classes plus a novice class, which typically, depending on the organizers, typically the novice class is a subset of the stock or least or equipment class that requires the least equipment.
Right, right. So I called the show the lowest barrier of entry, and motorsports is not an inexpensive game to play, and a lot of people don't get in because it costs too much money, and or don't stay in because it costs too much money once you've spent everything you've got doing it.
Sure.
But road rally is literally there are no street cars that are street legal that really can't do a road rally, right? For the most part.
Generally, the regs are basically, if you have a street licensed and insured car and a partner, you can run.
Right. And for the least, the no equipment class, what do you got to bring with you?
A clipboard, and that's basically and you go from there.
Yeah. A clip.
And if you want to get really really crazy, you can bring a calculator.
Wow.
Yeah.
For those at home, the kids at home, the thing on your phone, use a calculator app. You could use that, but they used to actually make calculators that you would buy a calculator. I just love trolling the kids at home. And it's really just kind of that simple. The instructions are usually so there's a code, right? I mean, there's some acronyms and abbreviations and stuff like that.
There are a variety of different styles of rallies and different styles of route instructions that go from the very straightforward. Are you familiar with tulip instructions that are used on stage rallies?
I am not.
Okay. Those have actual what we call tulip diagrams, where you're given mileage references for every instruction, and a tulip diagram is an overhead sketch of an intersection.
Okay.
And it's a very, very straightforward way of running rallies.
Uh-huh.
And the tulip diagrams, because there's no language of specific language associated with them, that no matter what language you speak, you can follow a set of mileages and a set of diagrams.
Is that kind of what they give for like the World Rally Championship?
It is. It's what the people at use for their the whole route is defined that way, and then the teams go and put their own detail on top of that. But that's how the route is defined for everyone.
So it's funny. I've seen one of their route books, and it didn't dawn on me till just now that the reason they do it is because there are drivers and navigators from all over the world who might not have a English or French, which is the official language of the FIA, those two languages, might not speak English or French, and the diagrams solve that problem.
Yeah. And you can run TSD rallies that way.
Yeah.
Using similar diagrams, and all, of course, then all the auxiliary in the U.S. generally, you're using English as the auxiliary.
Right.
For all, and then you can go all the way up to very cryptic route instructions and there's a whole spectrum of there are lots and lots of ways of defining a route.
Right.
And the majority of the rallies that we run in this area now are the route following is very straightforward. We're not intending to have people have to overthink things to follow route. There's a whole other branch of rallying known as trap rallying, where there's the intent by the organizers to
make it hard.
It's you're playing logic, course following logic games.
Right.
It's a different branch, but the SCCA does a lot of that too.
Right.
So if you're going into a rally, you should really try to find out from the organizers what you're getting into.
Yeah,
you should make it clear in whatever marketing or registration information.
Yeah, I have found that a quick email to whoever's running the rally, and you ask them, is this a rally that's good for a beginner or someone with not a lot of experience, and they'll let you know straight up. Because the last thing they want is you to come have a bad experience and then never come back again.
Right. We want you to come back.
Exactly. And it's the whole goal of getting new people out there is to help them have fun and return. So, back in the day, there used to be, there still are checkpoints. And that's how you get scored, by whether you hit the checkpoint at the prescribed time. And if you are too short or too quick, you get penalty points, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So back when you started, there were human beings at each of those checkpoints, and they would write down your time, hand you a slip of paper, and then at the end, you take all those slips of paper back to the scorer, and they would tally it up the scores, and then you'd have time to have beer and chat with everybody about how fun or how, whatever it was. And then at the end, they tell you who won. Now, it's been made a lot simpler and most rallies use this new system, right?
Yeah, there are a couple of different GPS-based timing and scoring system. The one that's in most prevalently used in the U.S. was developed by an SCCA member named Rich Beretta. It's called the RICTA timing system.
Right.
And it's run as a phone app or on a phone or tablet using the phone's internal GPS to sense where you are and time you when you arrive at each of these checkpoints. And it does all of it. It not only times you in, but announces your score within seconds after you pass the checkpoint, so you have instant feedback on how you're progressing.
Right.
And there are a couple of other systems out there, but that's the most prevalent one.
Right. When a new person comes along, do you recommend or do you suggest that they work with someone who's done it at least a few times the first time, or do you think it's almost more fun to have two new people just come out and take a swing at it?
I think either way can work fine.
Yeah. Talk about this is always my fun one. We have a lot of husband and wife teams who do this. I would find that to be possibly a potential relationship problem. How does that work out?
Every couple's different.
Yeah.
There's some who have been very, very, very successful at it, and others who will have tried it once or twice and will never go back.
Yeah.
So that's on a case by case basis. Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who I did some stuff with back several years ago, and it was two couples. And after a couple of races with husband and wife, or a couple of events with husband and wife teams, they decided that the wives were going to do their team and the husbands were going to do their team, and that was the way to make it all work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that.
Whatever. Yeah.
I love that. There is a pretty significant infrastructure for the rally programs as far as local events, more divisional events, and then national events. Can you give us an idea, a little bit of how that works as you progress through maybe going and doing some bigger events?
Well, there are, as you say, in the SCCA sphere, there are local events put on, or regional events put on by various regions around the country that don't necessarily count toward any championship. And then there are a couple of divisional championships where multiple regions get together and combine forces and have a championship over a couple state area. As I say, the Great Lakes division has probably the most prominent one of those championships right now. And then there are a couple of national championships that hit on sort of different styles of rally. We talked about the straightforward rally, so-called touring rally, and then also the rallies that include all of the logic games, so-called trap rallies or course rallies. And there are two parallel national championships for each concentrated on a different style of
right.
event.
Here in Southern California, we have the Santa Monica Sports Car Club, which is a partner club or part of Cal Club. I don't know exactly how the relationship works, but they're an SCCA club, and they put on what they call the first Friday night rally. So the first Friday night of every month, they put on a rally, and in the winter it's all in the dark. In the summer it starts in the daylight and ends in the dark, and it's a really cool series. That's what Alex and I did, and they just announced this year a partnership with the San Diego region of the SCCA, and they're now doing on a different weekend, pretty much one weekend a month, a Southern California rallying championship. Where half the rallies are going to be down by San Diego, half the rallies will be up by us in the LA area, which I would love to get involved with and do some of that. I think people get intimidated when they think about going outside of their home base, their little regional rallies. Should they?
I don't think so, but then again, I enjoy doing the one of my things that I enjoy most about rallying is going and seeing places that I'm, as a normal tourist, I might not see when there's some local person guiding me through an area that I may find things that I may never have seen.
Right.
But that's just my personality.
So do you get to a point where you have enough experience that you can actually enjoy the scenery while you're, because I feel like I am so focused about not screwing up that I don't really pay much attention to my surroundings?
It depends partially on how the rally is structured.
Okay.
When I do, as I say, I enjoy long distance rallying.
Right.
But also when I organize rallies, I tend to put in sections where where people are off the clock on some really nice, with some areas of really nice scenery and
Oh,
enjoyable
nice.
roads, and let them enjoy their time in that part of the country.
Yeah.
Because that's, I enjoy. I guess the golden rule is always do something you would enjoy as yourself, and
Sure.
that's what I would enjoy.
Sure. Part of my problem also is that we do these first Friday night rallies, and a lot of them are in the dark, and you really can't see much anyway. So that's a different experience also. You said long distance rallies. What does that mean?
Well, usually multi-day.
Okay.
As I say, I've run one lap of America, and then the Alcan rallies up in Canada and Alaska, where we were doing, well, typically on the Alcan, we would be doing 6,400 miles over 9 days.
Wow.
with including a couple of rest days. So we were averaging 700 and some miles a day.
Right.
Yeah.
So you need to like the person
winter.
you're with.
Yeah. you pick your partners carefully.
Exactly. Yeah, they had I think it was a national rally. What do they call it? Is it called a National Rally Tour?
Yeah.
Out here, and it was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday event.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, each day's rally was a kind of slightly different style of rally. Is that fairly typical?
Yeah, that is. Well, that's what we're doing in the Ohio this coming October. We're there's one of these 3-day weekends each year called the U.S. Road Rally Challenge, because it is USRRC, and we were asked to take that on, and that's what the Ohio region is doing in 2025 in October.
Okay. And what are like the typical 3 types of rallies that you would squeeze into that kind of an event?
Well, what we're doing is, the plan is for on Friday afternoon and evening to head, starting in the Canton, Ohio area, head south through. There's an area. Southeast Ohio is very hilly.
Mm-hmm.
When many people from other parts of the country think of Ohio as lots of cornfields, which is true in the western part of the state.
Right.
But the southeast part of the state is the Appalachian foothills. Yep. And so we have very, very twisty, hilly roads, and we'll be going down through there to an overnight halt on the Ohio River in a town called Marietta, Ohio. And then Saturday coming slightly west and paralleling that route, coming back north. And then on Sunday, the plan is to resurrect an event that hasn't run for about 20 years, but it ran from the 1950s up until about 20 years ago, called the Cleveland Alley Rally, which is completely different idea. It runs in the heart of the industrial waste, post-industrial wasteland of Cleveland, down in the alleys and underneath on the loading docks and the dead steel mills, and so it's a very different event if you're in the but they're interesting sightseeing opportunities if you're in the right mindset.
Sure. I've never heard of a rally done basically in the city streets. Usually the allure of the rally is to get the people from the city out in the country.
It is. That's generally. And that's what we're trying to do. Friday and Saturday, there's some gorgeous areas to go through. And that time of year will be just short of peak fall tree leaf coloration.
That would be awesome to do something like that out here, where you could hit the Hollywood sign and the Santa Monica Pier and Venice Beach and and then some of the areas that you wouldn't typically send people to. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
And that's in October?
That's October 10th through 12th.
Oh, so what you're telling me is I could do the runoffs and then go right from the runoffs to do that rally.
Yeah, are the runoffs at Road America?
They are.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm halfway there when I'm at the runoffs.
Well, you're more than halfway there.
Oh yeah, much more than halfway there. And I could, and because rally is what rally is, I could just rent a car.
You could.
I don't even have to bring my own car to do it, because I could do it as just a regular, lowest equipment level rally.
You could. And our hope is on these rallies to attract more than just the people who who chase points for the national
Right.
championships. The Friday and Saturday rallies will be part of the national championships, but our goal is to get some other people involved and to come out and really enjoy the roads.
Is rally the national championships like the solo nationals where you just have to sign up, you don't have to qualify for it?
That's right. Yeah,
Right.
there's no qualifying. It's not like the runoffs where you have to do a certain number of races and qualify. There's no qualifying requirement.
I wouldn't suggest that someone who's never done a rally probably show up to the national championships, but I always encourage people to step out of their comfort zone and go do something because it sounds like it's fun and not really worry about the results. And
in this case, we're trying to make it accessible to so somebody who has little or no experience will have no trouble following the course and enjoying the roads. Their scores will probably be decent. Obviously they'll be up against people with lots of experience. Sure. But we do have novice classes, and the rallies will be structured such that we're not overwhelming people in their course following skill realm.
I like that about solo nationals. What rally does? It's kind of like because even the most experienced people have a really bad sector once in a while, right?
Sure. Oh, absolutely. We all do. Yeah.
That's why I like watching golf. I play golf. And I like watching golf because I love watching great golfers play. But every once in a while, the greatest in the world do something as stupid as I do. Sure. And it makes me realize that we're all human. And the other thing I like about going to events that are much above my skill level, like solo nationals, I am not anywhere near the pointy end of the stick when I go to solo nationals, but I have a blast. I also learn a lot. I get to talk to people. Usually the fastest drivers are the ones who are most willing to help new people learn. They're often very confident enough in their own skill set that they don't really worry about giving away their secrets. I love that. Is it kind of the same way in rally?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like in any game, you're happy to give away information until they get the game that close to you, then you hold back the very last thing. But yeah, I think it's very much the same.
Yeah, I think most of the really fast people in any version of our motorsports are happy to give away 90% of their knowledge to the lower 50% of the grid.
Right, exactly.
But if you're the guy who's in second place, you're probably not going to get a lot out of me. That's pretty true across the board. So there are several classes in rally. We've talked a lot about the newbie. And we're also going to dig in a few minutes about how the GPS app works a little bit. We kind of brushed over it. The last time we did kind of one of these general rally episodes, that was kind of just a thing that was being used. Now that we're deeper into it, let's get into that in just a minute, Greg. I'm going to take a short break here and thank the people who helped me do this podcast. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do this. So give me 2 seconds, Greg. Don't go anywhere. I want to thank, and if you look up in the corner here, you're going to see all of their logos. You'll also see right over my shoulder there. It's Inside the SCCA, brought to you by raceschool.com. They are one of the best race schools in the country. They're based out here in Southern California, and we love them for helping us out and being part of our podcast here. And my computer has locked up for a second. I'll do it by memory. Yes, raceschool.com. One of the best race schools in the country. They're out here in Southern California, based at Buttonwillow. They do some stuff out at Willow Springs as well. Of course, Buttonwillow now has 2 racetracks out there for them to teach off of, which is fantastic. You can go out there to get your full SCCA competition license. They also do defensive driving and high-performance driving days. If you've got a young driver, I recommend any kind of a defensive driving course that gives them an opportunity wanting to learn a little extra skills before they get out there on the roads. And if you're going to do one, any of them are good, but definitely the one at raceschool.com is awesome. Also, Solo Performance Specialties, Dave and his crew, they go around to most of the Solo National Tour events. They also have a great website. You can pick up the phone and call them. They do tires. They do basically a lot of the accessories that you would need for your solo program. My seats for my special seatbelts for my Honda Fit I got from Dave. Check them out. Solo Performance Specialties. Ray Esports is the official sim racing league of Inside the SCCA. If you like to sim race and you like to sim race with a bunch of SCCAers, mostly SCCAers, Ray Esports has programs on Tuesday nights and on the weekends. I often do the Weekend Warriors races in the Formula V and the Spec Racer Ford. If you want to make sure that you can beat somebody, show up when I'm out there, because you probably have no problem being faster than me on the sim rig. Check that out, Ray Esports. And then David Pinterick, he is one of us. He's a GT1 Spec MX-5 driver. He does financial planning and a bunch of other financial type services. Really good guy. He is one of us. Won't steer you wrong. William R. Pinterick and Associates. Those are the people who help me out to be able to go to Solo Nationals, go to the runoffs, that kind of stuff. Maybe go to the Rallycross Championship or Rally Championships this year. That would be cool. We'll see if we can make that happen as well. All of the information for the people that help me out in the show notes. Just scroll down a little bit and click on the links and let them know that you found out about them through us. All right, back here inside the SCCA, my guest is Greg Lester. He is the Northeast Ohio Rally Chair, and he has been doing rally for a bucket full of years, and it's been great to have him here to share his knowledge and experience with all of us. Let's dig in a little bit, Greg, about the different classes. We've talked about the novice or the unequipped class. I think that's what it's called, right? Unequipped?
Unequipped or stock.
Stock, right. But there are some classes above that. Can you go through each one of them with me? What's the one just above unequipped?
Well, there are basically the SCCA is on the national championship is running 4 different classes now.
Okay.
We talk about the stock class, where basically you're limited to using the car's an unmodified stock odometer in the car, and then handheld calculating equipment.
Right.
The next class up was what we call a limited equipment class, where you are allowed to use specialized auxiliary odometers that get hooked into the car's drivetrain and give very, very stable and accurate mileages, and that is keyed with with some kind of handheld calculating equipment. And then the next step up, which is basically there's argument that we have what we call a GPS based class, where you have GPS based odometers that feed mileage information directly into some sort of calculating device, whether it's a phone app or something else.
Sure.
And so you have semi-automated timekeeping there. And then we have what's called the equipped class or unlimited class, where there are specialized rally computers that take mileage information off of the drivetrain of the car somehow and do lots of and do the timekeeping on an automated or semi-automated basis. And both the GPS and equipped class really probably should be lumped into a single. But
Right.
anyways, it's specialized equipment.
Right.
Well, it's how more and more specialized equipment each step.
Yeah, that equipped class, it was the only game in town before GPSs became a thing, right?
Not, I mean, there were pre-GPS. There were generally 3 different equipment classes. You'd still have the stock odometer class, the auxiliary odometer class, and then the unlimited equipment class, basically. Okay.
What is the benefit to having, let's say, the fancy rally computer, and is it make it easier? Does it make it harder?
It makes it in some ways it makes it easier. In other ways, it makes it it makes it harder. And in some ways, we're playing kind of a flawed game when you get right down to, if you look at all of the variables out there as far as measurement and timing, that play you're getting down to playing in the statistical noise. So it becomes kind of frustrating.
Right.
But it makes it it makes it easier, but also makes it necessary. There's no room for error.
Right.
Any small error is severely punished.
And with the mechanical odometer type systems, I mean, even having your tire pressures off by a half a pound or a pound can affect your results, right?
Yeah, and you'll notice that, and you don't think about that generally when you're just driving.
Right.
If you are running along on dry pavement and run through a rainstorm, and your tires cool, you'll notice it. You'll notice it in your measure. It's you don't even think about it, but you will notice that. Sure.
Hadn't even thought about that part.
Or if you're going back and forth where you're going through dry roads and then onto mud or puddles,
right,
you'll notice things change too. And it becomes a game of who can control that. It becomes very complicated.
Sure.
If you're trying to seriously track that.
Which class do you typically compete in?
Generally in the unlimited or the limited equipment class, occasionally in the stock class, but in one of the equipment-based classes generally.
Do you find it? Which one do you find more fun?
The limited equipment class, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Are there people who never jump out of stock and just do that their entire rally careers?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. It just I find it fun. I've never done. I would love to maybe second seat to navigate in an unlimited class just to see what it's all about, or maybe sit in the back seat. That's another question. If you've never been to a rally, can you go sit in the back seat and watch the driver and navigator do it?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
It's no problem. Having it's no problem at a non-championship rally.
Sure.
If you have a third person in the car at some championship rally, there's no problem signing a waiver and being a passenger, but there probably is something buried in the rules about that, and some other teams will probably claim that there's some competitive advantage. Well, yes and no. If you have three people arguing that may be the competitive advantage to the team that doesn't have the passenger. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I never thought about maybe having another friend just to get them interested to see at the local level, definitely, to kind of like get, wet the whistle, sort of say.
It's not that unusual. We have had that. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's talk a little bit about this GPS system. I suspect it's been around for a bit, but like many things in our club, sometimes we're slow to jump on board because we've always done it the old way. What was the evolution to going from the old way to being very pretty much universally used one of the GPS systems?
Well, as you alluded to earlier, the COVID pandemic really drove, the system had been under development, but that really drove it. It suddenly, we'd gone from people out there punching clocks and handing out time stickers,
right,
to this automated system that runs on cell phones and tablets and does all this timing internally and in an automated manner. And as I say, the developer of the RICTA system, which is the one that's most commonly used in the U.S., was developed by a SCCA member named Rich Beretta. He's done a very good job with it. He's been very receptive to suggestions for improvements, and whenever there have been problems, he's been right on it, trying to upgrade things and to avoid issues.
Right. So how does the system work?
the when the rally master goes out, as the course is when the course is laid out, records the locations of all of the various checkpoints.
Mm-hmm.
And those are put into a database. When the competitors register for the rally, though that database is released with a password, and the competitors have a competitor app on their phone or tablet. They access the database, which is downloaded into their device,
Right.
and they cannot see. The competitors are unable to see that information, but as they go, the app runs on the device as they go along the course. The internal GPS on the phone or tablet is searching for all of these waypoints,
Mm-hmm.
and as each one is passed, there is a target. The rally master has set target arrival times for each of these,
Sure.
and they're scored according to how close to those target arrival times that they can maintain.
Yep.
So
it's all kind of done by magic.
it's a wonderful system.
Yeah. Yeah. How much has that saved on the organizational side of the game, as far as, I guess probably not as much on the pre-rally side, but on the post-rally side, it's made things a bunch easier, hasn't it?
It's helped in a lot of ways. There are a number of rallies that are running with the automated timing that wouldn't run if we had to have manned checkpoints today. They
Right.
just but it also has helped with the post rally speeding up scoring.
Right.
As there have been times in the past where hand scoring has been just a real nightmare, and it's taken far too long after the last competitor has finished the rally before scores can be posted. That was a real problem sometimes in the past, and if it's done right, you get almost near instantaneous scoring.
And if I remember correctly, do you kind of get scoring real time as the rally's going on as a competitor as well?
You do.
Okay.
As you pass each checkpoint, there is there's an audible signal, whether it's a beep or a synthesized voice that indicates you've passed a checkpoint, and then your arrival time and score pops up on the screen of your phone.
Right.
Within seconds after you've passed the checkpoint.
Right. And can you look at the other competitors while the rally's going on as well?
You can. In the last couple of years, the same developer, Rich Beretta, has come up with what he calls the Ricta scoreboard system. So it's a separate app, but you can run it on you can run on the same phone, or you can monitor scores of the whole.
Yeah, I think that's what we did. We put the scoreboard on my phone, and we had I was driving, and
Sure.
So we didn't need my phone. And then the actual system for our car's conveyance of information to the original app was on Alex's phone, and I was able to kind of keep an eye on the novice cars, which was kind of cool.
Another really nice thing that he's done with that is the rally master can open up a map of the course that doesn't show all the scored controls. It shows the restart points, and it shows all the locations of all the competitors in real time, as long as they have cell service. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you're out how. Sometimes there's a lag in car position if they're outside of cell service.
Right.
But in our winter rally here, we have the local amateur radio community helps us with sort of with sweep and oversight of the rally. They set up a practice radio net over a three county area. So they enjoy being able to watch where all the competitors are and where they are. and that's worked really well.
Yeah.
To keep track of what's happening out in real time.
Yeah. Yeah, because some of these rallies are in a pretty rural area and might not have the best cell service.
Yeah.
I always, when I did it back in the day, I probably did 15 or 20 rallies in the before times, back in the late 80s, early 90s when I was in college. And there was always this concern of, we had to have maps because, heck, we could get lost and,
Yeah.
and have to find our way back to home base, or at least to the next rally, to the next point. And the phones, thankfully, help us a little bit with that.
Yeah, and especially if the rally master can turn that map on and off on the scoreboard app.
Oh,
but I don't see any reason not to have it out there. And that way, if any competitors do go off course, they can consult that map and see where the next restart point is.
right.
Correlate that with their route instructions, and get back on track.
Right. Very cool. Anything we're missing? Is there anything new going on in the SCCA rally world that is worth talking about? Any new changes or anything like that?
I can't think of anything major.
Okay.
The automated scoring apps that was the biggest innovation of the last several years.
Sure. It's a ton of fun, folks. If you've never done one, if you're new to SCCA, absolutely give rally a try. It might be their home, your home in this sport, which would be awesome. If you're part of other parts of the SCCA and you've never done a rally, find a weekend. It's usually just a day. It doesn't have to be a whole weekend event. Find a day. Take a friend, take a spouse, take a kid. Take one of your children, go out and do it. That's the other thing, is they don't have to even be driving age. Is there a low age for the insurance purposes? I don't think there is, right?
But there are parental sign-offs
Sure.
for minor waivers. So,
right.
Just like I suppose in any other of the SCCA activities, if a participant is under 18, there's a sign-off procedure.
Right. But it's a great way to get your child involved or in the sport and get some interest going. So, but I really want to encourage all of our different SCCA program participants to go out this year and find a different program to go and check out and maybe volunteer with. I think it's great for the club. It's great to meet other people. You might find a place you really like, or you might not. But I just think it's great to see other disciplines, other program participants pop over and check out a different program. So
fully agree. Crossover activity is really important.
Yeah, I love it. Greg, thanks so much for being with us. I really appreciate having you on the show. And while we were talking, it dawned on me a great podcast would be to get a rally master on and talk about how they create a rally and the process, because I suspect it's many weeks of work to decide what the route's going to be, to go out and track the route and do all that work, right?
Yes and no. When you go into a new area that you're not already familiar with, I would say yes.
Okay.
But when I work in a familiar area, I can put stuff together very quickly.
Okay.
But absolutely, when you're going into an unfamiliar area, there's lots of recon work to do.
Yeah. And I suppose if you are new at doing it, it's going to take you longer than if you've done 20 of them, right?
Absolutely. And if you that's another place where mentoring can really be your help, your friend.
Yeah.
Because a good mentor can save you a lot of time there.
Sure.
So.
It's over. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Inside the SCCA, presented by RaceSchool.com. If you like what you're hearing, subscribe to the RacingWire Podcast Network so you won't miss any episodes. It would also be great if you leave a comment, especially if it's a good one. You can follow us on social media to find out who our next guest is and leave a question. On Twitter, it's @RaceAnnouncer. There's a new Inside the SCCA every week. I'm Brian Bielanski. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. Stay safe and go play with cars.